Good morning. Today we're going to see about the frictional force. Friction force that resists sliding or rolling of one solid object over another. Frictional force such as traction needed to walk without slipping may be a beneficial, but also it presents a great measure of opposition to motion. From the image, we are able to identify that when we apply a force on an object, the frictional force occurs opposite to the applying force. That is at the contact point of the surface. The major cause of friction between metals appears to be the force of attraction known as adhesion between the contact region of the surface, which are always microscopically irregular. Friction arises from the shearing these joints. That is, might be a welder joint or any kind of joint, and from the action of irregularities of harder surface flowing across the softer surface. First, the amount of friction is nearly independent of the area of contact. For example, if a brick is pulled along the table, the frictional force is same where the brick is lying flat or it's standing on an end. Second, friction is proportional to the load or weight that presses the surface together. It is a tangential force that occurs between the contact surfaces. There are three types of frictions. Generally, we can classify into three types. Static friction, kinetic friction, sliding or rolling friction. The static friction, a normal reaction acts perpendicular to the lying plane. When a block is resting on a horizontal surface, the self weight of the block acts perpendicular to the ground plane. Always the self weight of the object acts perpendicular to the ground plane. Either it may be inclined or it lies on the horizontal surface or it hanging. The self weight of the objects always acts perpendicular to the ground plane. The surface, when it is in contact, a reaction force occurs on the contact surface. So the reaction force is perpendicular to the surface of the object which it lies. In the static friction, there is no any external force applied on the object, so it remains in rest. In some cases, the applied force is lesser than the frictional force, the object remains at rest. The condition of that particular object is also known as static friction. Facts about the static frictions. Minimum value of static friction. The minimum value of static friction is 0 when no external force is applied to the body. This is because if we don't apply any force, there won't be any opposing frictional force or as well. The value of static friction becomes maximum when the body just starts to move. That is, we call it as about to move, or it is known as impending motion. If we want to move a body, then the value of applied force should be always greater than the limiting friction. Static friction is a self-adjusting force. When the applied force is 0, the static friction between a body and the surface is also 0. When we start applying the force on the body, the magnitude of static friction also increases. Kinetic friction. When a block is moving on the surface of another body, there exists the kinetic friction between two surfaces. It is also known as dynamic friction, and it acts opposite to the direction in which the body is moving. Once applied force exists the limiting friction, the body starts moving and gains the inertia of motion, so that the force of friction is reduced. That is why the kinetic friction always less than the limiting friction. The kinetic friction, we can divide it into sliding friction or rolling friction. Now we will see about the rolling friction. When we are rolling a body on the surface of another body, there will be an opposing frictional force between two surfaces in contact. It is called rolling friction. When a body is rolling over a surface, the surface is compressed due to which the body has to climb the compressed surface. Since the body is rolling, some parts of the body are continuously detached from the surface. The adhesive force between the surface of the rolling body and the surface opposes the phenomenon and generates rolling friction. Suppose we have a body of the same mass, then it is easier to roll the body than the slide. It is because for the same weight, the rolling friction is much less than the sliding friction. Thank you.